When this man inherited an old, worn-down cabin from his grandfather, he was ridiculed. His siblings, who received significant inheritances when the old man died, mocked him for inheriting the decrepit cabin. However, his perspective changed when he looked inside and discovered something valuable, having the last laugh. When Andrew's grandfather died, it was a sad time for Andrew. He was very close to his grandpa and felt sad about his death. His relatives, however, didn't care much about his grandpa and only seemed interested in their inheritance. So Andrew wasn't surprised to see his whole family already at the notary's office when he got there. Andrew's grandfather was rich, and his father, mother, brother, and sister were all excited to get their inheritance. But they didn't get everything. The old man had left them a list of assets, and it was Andrew who heard about his gift first. His father and mother each got $500,000. His brother got a vacation home, and his sister got $100 and both family cars. Now it was Andrew's turn. What would he get? The notary looked at Andrew seriously and said his grandpa had something special for him. He took out an old envelope and opened it. Everyone leaned in, expecting money. But what Andrew got was completely unexpected. In this envelope, I leave you the old fishing cabin and the deeds to the small lake area surrounding it, the notary read out loud. Mocking laughter filled the room. After that, the individuals who laughed the hardest were Andrew's brother and sister. They agreed amongst each other to poke fun at Andrew forever because of it. The old fishing cabin was hardly worth anything, and the surrounding area, even though pretty, wasn't worth investing in at all. "You got robbed, little brother," his sister said, grinning. Andrew felt like arguing with his smirky sister, but deep down, he knew she was right. He had visited the lakeside cabin many times with his granddad, and aside from some fishing gear and a leaky rooftop, there was nothing special about it. Disappointed, Andrew walked to his car. He didn't expect a lot of money, but receiving such a small gift compared to his siblings, who never cared about his grandfather, felt like a betrayal. Arriving at the property, Andrew saw the rundown cabin he expected, broken windows, dilapidated walls. Seeing it brought back memories of fishing with his grandpa when he was young. Despite the cabin's poor condition, those fishing days were special to Andrew. He approached the cabin, opened the door, and found nothing but fishing gear and the smell of rotting wood inside. Questioning why his grandfather left him the cabin, Andrew felt frustrated. He considered tearing it down and building something else on the land. He walked around the cabin, imagining a small hotel or bed and breakfast in its place, but he wondered where he would get the money for such a project. Andrew thought of different ideas, but then he stopped himself. He couldn't believe his grandfather left him the cabin for no reason. Destroying it would dishonor his grandfather's memory. "There must be something special about this cabin that I'm not seeing," Andrew said to himself. He went back inside and noticed something strange. After going back inside, Andrew made an incredible discovery that made him feel even closer to his grandfather. He finally understood. Andrew was extremely happy with his unique inheritance, and the next day his relatives would find out why. Seeing his newfound happiness made his siblings want to mock him more, but their words didn't affect him. He was not the same man they saw a few days ago. Andrew felt ecstatic. His brother and sister couldn't understand his joy, and even his parents, who didn't join in mocking him, looked at him curiously. They demanded to know what he found in the cabin, but Andrew just smiled and refused to tell them. Despite his family's attempts to tease him, Andrew remained composed, smiling as he served them tea. He enjoyed seeing them argue. By the end of their visit, his family looked tired. His parents gave up, but his brother and sister persisted. Finally, Andrew decided they didn't deserve to know the cabin's secret since they never cared for their grandpa. However, something changed. His family's mocking tone shifted, and they became quiet. Andrew noticed his brother and sister now looked at him with desperation, wanting to know the secret. Seeing this change, Andrew decided to be kind and told them he would reveal the secret, but they had to keep it to themselves. This confused his family, but they agreed. They were eager to visit the cabin and discover the secret. Andrew smiled, knowing they had no idea what awaited them. He offered to drive them to the cabin, which was only an hour away, and there was still plenty of time left in the day. "What are you waiting for? Grab your gear and meet me outside." "It's time to go," Andrew said, smiling. His relatives were still a bit hesitant about the whole situation. They were really curious about this mysterious cabin, but Andrew's confidence and his willingness to help all of a sudden spiked their nerves a lot. "All right, we'll meet you outside in about 5 minutes, his sister eventually said, frowning. After waiting for 5 minutes, Andrew stood by his dirty dune buggy, waiting for his family. He noticed their obnoxious side once more when his sister arrived in a shiny red sports car and his brother wore an extravagant coat. Andrew thought it was frustrating how they flaunted their wealth, which they got from their grandpa's hard work. He knew they would soon be surprised. Despite his plain appearance compared to his flashy siblings, Andrew kept a confident smile. They all arrive at the lakeside cabin together, with Andrew parking his car closest. His siblings parked their expensive cars behind him. Andrew's sister stepped in some unknown animal waste, which amused him. When they saw the cabin, they reacted just as Andrew expected. Is this it? Looking at their disappointed faces was just an appetizer for Andrew's payback. The main course was waiting for them inside. Don't worry, you will see soon enough, Andrew proclaimed. They walked around the building a couple of times just to add tension to the situation, and it worked just as expected. His sister cracked first, closely followed by his brother and parents. Come on, man, this is not why we came here. What is the big secret? Andrew could hardly hold in his laughter. But as amusing as this all was, he knew that the time for delay was over. It's time for the inside. They were now all standing in front of the cabin. This is it. Are all of you ready to witness something extraordinary? He asked his family. They all nodded together in silence. Andrew fiddled around in his side pocket and pulled out a rusty old key. He approached the front door and turned the key slowly. Andrew opened the door slowly, revealing the inside of the wooden cabin. After that, he invited his family to enter the building first. He was eager to see their response. After all, they went in blind and were expecting to see something amazing right away, but they had no idea what kind of mystery awaited them. His family walked around the cabin a couple of times, but ended up more confused than when they came in. They only saw grandfather's fishing gear in the corner, a hardly functional table, and a small rug. What's so special about this place, Andrew? Tell us now. Andrew admitted to them that at first he thought the same thing. When you walk through here, it's just an empty cabin with a bad smell and some of Grandpa's old stuff, right? Well, if you think that, you are wrong, because there is more to this building than you might think. Look carefully. Andrew started walking around the room himself, but in contrast to his family, he did so much more intently. He pressed his feet into the floor hard, stomping with every step. What are you doing, little brother? His sister asked him, confused, but Andrew just told her to keep quiet and listen. The sound of his stomping feet was the same everywhere he went, just a hard and annoying sound throughout. But when he reached the corner of the room where the rug was, the sound changed. It went from a short, muted thump to a loud, hollow sound. What is this? Andrew started smiling again as he gazed upon the faces of his relatives. He had them on the edge of their seats. Edward crouched down next to the rug and grabbed one corner before rolling it up diagonally. By doing so, he uncovered a large hatch big enough for a person to climb through. His sister told Andrew that she was starting to doubt him, but after seeing this hatch, her interest was definitely piqued once more. What is down there, little brother? Hidden treasure? The smirky woman looked down into the dark hole and saw a ladder leading downwards. Andrew left again, so Andrew had brought a backpack with him, and now was time to open it. Out of it, he pulled 4 identical flashlights. He had already predicted that they would eventually come here, so he went over to the hardware store to prepare. Andrew turned each of them on and passed them around. With their flashlights at the ready, all 4 of Andrew's relatives headed down the dark set of stairs. The room smelled old and musky, not the place where people would like to hang around. Andrew's brother said snobbily, but that attitude faded instantly when he saw the room he walked into. All of their eyes turned large at the same time. They turned towards Andrew, and he could see the sense of wonder on their faces. Are you kidding me? His sister said, but Andrew wasn't kidding at all. This was extremely serious. I told you so, but you all didn't believe me, he said, laughing. The underground room they were in was huge, about 10 times bigger than the cabin above. It was made of strong concrete and was filled with valuable historical items. Andrew's grandpa was a well-known collector of historical artifacts, and his entire wealth came from this. The room contained famous items like Cleopatra's staff, Alexander the Great's sword, and a robe believed to have been owned by Jesus Christ. Andrew was emotional seeing these items because he shared his grandpa's love for history. His family, however, only saw the money these items could bring. They asked what he would do with the money, assuming he would sell everything. But Andrew had a different plan. He decided to turn the place into a museum to honor his grandpa. He built a beautiful glass museum next to the old cabin, keeping it as it was to preserve his grandpa's memory. He only allowed a few people to visit by appointment to maintain the place's natural beauty and respect his grandpa's work. Andrew cherished the cabin because it was his grandpa's.